involved with the Palestinian struggle within this country, Aotearoa, New Zealand, for the longest time, and that's Don Carson. Don started when he was a student, and that's some decades ago, and he stayed with the struggle. So kia ora, Don, and you can speak for yourself.
Thank you, Jen. Tēnā koutou, katoa, shalom, salam alaikum. In my radio training, I learned that you can reduce even an hour's worth of preparation of material down to 30 seconds, max 40 seconds, so this is a challenge ahead of me. I see that I'm listed to talk about the lessons from the anti-apartheid movement. This is not going to be an exercise in recounting stories from the Springbok tour, as much as I would love to, but rather to draw some parallels. The first one is that there is no obvious parallel. There is no obvious parallel with the extraordinary circumstances of the very unusual and special relationship New Zealand had with apartheid South Africa through sport and rugby in particular. That will not be replicated here. But what will be replicated, I hope and trust, is two other parallels. One, that the anti-apartheid movement was not just about sporting contacts of New Zealand with South Africa, but it was a worldwide campaign. People met in Africa, in Asia, in Europe and the United States, and it was an international campaign. New Zealand was but one part of it, a crucial but still a part. The apartheid regime would still be in South Africa, were it not for the massive support given to the people who opposed it in South Africa internationally. And that's where BDS comes in here. It is not just us feeling good, it is not just New Zealand not buying in, but it is internationally that we are part, one cog of an international campaign to strengthen those in Israel who oppose Zionism, and I say very clearly and advisedly that it is Zionism. It is no longer a diversion called the occupation. It is about the rot that established Israel as a racist regime just as much in the same year South Africa established one under apartheid. As Jan pointed out, I've been around this campaign for a long time and I wouldn't continue unless I was optimistic. We established the Palestine Group in Wellington more than 30 years ago to recognise and have recognised the PLO by the New Zealand government. It very soon happened. Warren Cooper, as Minister of Foreign Affairs, met the PLO representative. He may not know who he was talking to. That is possible, but he did. Where do we go from there? We can't support a military struggle. The military struggle ended in 1973. We can't support negotiations and diplomacy because we know that that is Israel's deliberate negotiating tactic. But we can isolate Israel in support of the Israelis. We can do that. And for those who clutch at perhaps the most imperceptible of optimism, I would remind those who may have seen President Obama's speech at Ben Gurion Airport when he arrived to pay homage to Netanyahu and engage in some sort of love fest. The propaganda that Israel now issues is for United States consumption. The United States of the view of world order is increasingly irrelevant. And if they use the Israelis that propaganda and continue to use it internationally, then it's not going to work. And the very nature of perception, tell Nike, is on a knife edge. It's very delicately balanced. And what I saw in Operation Cast Lead is one of two things. One thing happened, the other has yet to happen. What did happen is the image of the victim was clearly and immediately got out of Gaza so people could see it on their television screens. Victimhood clearly and identifiably. But that doesn't work by itself. It is insufficient in the long term. What, and Yusuf pointed the way yesterday at the workshops, is an identification and a hearing of the Palestinian voice. And when the Palestinian voice genuinely and individually and personally comes through, as the Israelis have had the monopoly on for so long, then Palestine will triumph. When that happens, Palestine will triumph, and it will triumph quickly. For what we have to do in New Zealand is we must coordinate nationally better than we have before. We must coordinate internationally with BDS campaigns around the world, and particularly Australia, and I also identify Malaysia that we are to work with. We must do something again that we should have done a long time ago, and work with Māori here in New Zealand, because they at very least see those same parallels. And finally, another message. I'm pleased to see the brothers and sisters in Islam here as well. That as well. Palestine is not a Muslim issue, but it is an issue of Muslims. And if we work with the Islamic community here in our solidarity, and work with the Māori community, and work with turning that perception around, which is so delicately balanced, of what Israel is really about and what the Palestinians want, need and demand, and is of their right, then we will surely succeed. Next time we meet together, we'll be celebrating, not planning. Thank you very much.